This past weekend during Group B, MDI competitors were faced with the Group of Death, some of the strongest competition in group play we've ever seen. Teams would have to bring their absolute best, and it was Missed Count who did so, sweeping the day with 3 world records, including their near-perfect +21 Darkflame Cleft. In order to time a key of this level, you'll have to consolidate smaller pulls together into massive pulls in order to have any chance. Running ahead of the group, Kira pulls 2 rank Overseers on top of the double, Wicklighter plus Mole Rat Pack, and the crux of this pull is making sure that the enemies don't get spread out by the Overseer's Wild Wallop cast. Sigil of Chains and Ursul's Vortex are used to lock down the enemies and keep things under control. The group also has to watch out for both Overseer's overpowering roar casts. On this difficulty, an unmitigated roar can nearly one-shot a player from 100 to 0, something their Discipline Priest needs to keep an eye on and shield players without personals available. A short cooldown pull sets up Missed Count for the first boss encounter of the dungeon, Old Waxbeard. This encounter is a constant pressure style of fight where the players are at constant threat of being overrun by the menial laborers that spawn during the encounter, made more dangerous by the periodic luring candle flame debuff the boss puts on players in the group, causing the ads to fixate them. In order to not die to the crude weapon debuffs the kobolds stack on their targets, the group needs to make sure they're using appropriate amounts of crowd control, such as slows, stuns, and knockbacks, in order to make sure they don't land too many melees on the group. At the same time, the group has to make sure they're constantly killing off the dynamite-laden carts the boss spawns throughout the encounter. Without proper damage cooldowns allocated, these are extremely difficult to kill off at this key level and will instantly wipe the group if they're not killed. This type of encounter is where Arcane Mage shines. Their ability to funnel damage into one target makes this encounter much shorter than it otherwise would be. After dealing with the first boss, the team heads towards Blaziken, but there are many dangerous enemies in their way. Keeping with the massive pull strategy of the dungeon, they pulled nearly the entire room together, including 3 Wandering Candles and several Blazing Fiends. Every single Quenching Blast cast from the candles is a raid wipe-inducing event, so AJ needs to make sure he has the group topped constantly. At the same time, any missed interrupts on the Fiends makes the blast even more dangerous. Kira's also constantly kiting away from the Kobold Taskworker's bonk casts. If he gets caught in the ground AoE, he'll get stunned for 3 seconds, which is almost certain death with a pull of this size. This all sounds like a lot, because it is. Fortunately, the Quenching Blast cast can be line-of-sighted behind a wall or pillar, although somehow Missed Count doesn't actually need to do this, showing off AJ's healing prowess. Another single candle and Fiend Pull sets up Missed Count for the second boss encounter of the dungeon. Blaziken is an interesting encounter that's mostly mechanics-based. The main focus of the encounter plays around his Enkindling Inferno cast. Anytime Blaziken lights in a candle with his ability, he puts a heavy stacking dot on the group. 1 or 2's healable, but any more and you're in grave danger of the next AoE ability the boss does killing you off. This ability happens twice every cycle of the encounter. Once after the Wicklighter barrage, where he targets players with the ground AoE, that can be used to light the candles, where your goal is to light as many as possible. And again after the Extinguishing Gust cast goes off, where you'll only want to blow out 1 of the candles, just to keep a safe spot for the Incite Flames cast that comes afterwards. Done perfectly, the danger of this encounter drastically goes down, and Missed Count expertly handles all of this. Short AoE breather pull after Blaziken sets up Missed Count, by far the hardest healing encounter in the season's dungeon pool, the Candle King. After skipping past the mini-boss guarding the encounter with a Fade, Infernal Strike, Wild Charge, and 2 life grips, the team prepares to engage. They've saved their second Bloodlust of the dungeon for this boss because they know they'll need every ounce of damage they can squeeze out of their group to end the fight before their healer's mana runs dry. This is another constant pressure encounter. Every single Eerie Mold left on the ground does constant damage to the group. They must be perfectly cleared with both the Darkflame Pickaxe, as well as the Throw Darkflame Circles. The difficulty of the encounter lies in not only the ridiculous healing check at this level, but also the movement around the room. If a mold ever gets left behind, it'll be left in molten wax that makes it harder for the team to clear it. This leads to more damage taken on the group, something they really can't afford at this level. Even with perfect execution, the Candle King takes over 4 minutes for Missed Count to down, with a whopping 4.2 million HPS from AJ required to keep the team alive. With the King dead, the team turns their attention to the final areas of the dungeon. Kira takes one of the many candles in the area and sprints as fast as he can to the end of this area, picking up nearly all of the trash along the way. AJ trails behind, making sure to keep him alive, but in the meantime it's Hearthjax, the mage, that stays behind with the minecart, nursing it along and making sure the candle doesn't run out of heat and doesn't get drained, so it reaches that final stopping point. Once there, the team turns to the massive trash pool they've gathered, the main danger of which is the corridor creepers. When the corpses of anything they've killed is on the ground near them, they gain a stacking buff that increases their damage. Pair this with the debuff they put on the tank, this can prove quite fatal. However, our champions prove once again nothing in this dungeon is a match for them, and begin to weaken the darkness, the final boss of the dungeon. One final trash pull is done. This time, though, it's pulled directly into the final boss. 3 corridor creepers and a ton of fodder is pulled on top of the boss, and again, the danger here lies mostly on Kira's shoulders. The group needs to expertly move the enemies in such a way that Kira can drag the creepers away from the enemies the second they die, so he doesn't take any extra damage from these corridor creepers. Once dealt with, the only thing left between missed count and yet another perfect dungeon is the boss itself. Using combat tricks like greater invisibility and shadow meld to cancel the shadow blast casts, the group has no issue dispatching the darkness and timing the world record 21 Darkflame Cleft. Missed Count is a team that has always had the capability of timing the highest keys in the highest level of competition, and they've been frontrunners for some time now. Make sure you don't miss the rest of the MDI this month to see if they've got what it takes to claim their first title in the global finals.